as a backdrop, I'm going to pull up our most recent data. Our January 2024 survey is currently in the field. And this basically is asking you and your peers what your spending intention is for the calendar year coming up. One of the initial questions that we ask is about overall budget growth. Now, we had seen previously this get down into the single digits, particularly among really large organizations like your own. But we are seeing a thawing of spending. We'll ask you in a second about why. But right now, we're seeing in aggregate an average expectation of about 4.5% growth. That's a little bit higher among financials, insurance, IT, telco, which tend to have bigger budgets. It's also still higher among small and mid than it is global, like 2,000 and Fortune 500 organizations. But in general, the aggregate spend is about 4.5% for this year. First, Aaron, I'm going to start there, if you don't mind, sir, and tell me, what do you anticipate your spending to be for the next year?
Yeah, I think it's probably aligned right there around 4 to 5%, with the goal of, spending money on technology to save elsewhere in the organization, right? Leveraging tools like AI and other automation assets to increase the IT spend, but overall the spend of the company will end up coming down once the tools are in place.
So that's interesting. We're still in an overall environment where organizations are focused on reducing cost, which means that maybe the caution or the trepidation hasn't fully eased. Now they're allowing money to flow out for technology, but for the purpose of really saving on FTE, saving on repetitive tasks, and driving more cost savings. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think there's in our world there's a big focus on how do we save on repetitive tasks? Where do we automate where it makes sense and continue to hire the FTEs typically at a higher salary where they can add value versus the repetitive task area.
Yep. Understood. And if you were to take a look across your organization and your peers, do you think there's any underlying macro issues that's driving a little bit of easing in the spend? Have we gotten past the worst of our recessionary fears, for instance? Have we gotten past the biggest impact of inflation, perchance?
I don't think so. I think, it's still going. Politics are what they are, no matter what side you're on. But at the end of the day, people need money to function as an individual, and their costs are going up, and everybody's tightening the belts, I still think, because we don't know when it's going to stop. Right? There's no end in sight, I think, yet on when we're at the bubble, we're bursting, whatever it is. So people are still being cautious on some of the spend.
Agreed. Completely agreed. And I'm going to ask this question in a different way. If right now the technology investments are driven towards automation and Gen AI, but again, with the goal of automation and reducing costs there, are there areas specific to technology where you're being pressured to reduce spending? Whether that be, even if it's just hardware cycles or if it's some other aspect. I'm curious how and where you're being pressured to decrease spend.
Yeah, so we're looking to optimize technology. So making sure that business units aren't buying maybe a software package that we have another competing software package to, and leveraging bigger discounts by putting everybody on, say, Microsoft versus a competitor or vice versa, and aligning that, and that's going to drive operational improvements on cost savings by not having to administer two platforms, not having to secure two platforms. So we've been focused on a lot of that as well.